All right, let's talk about Luke. Terrell Suggs also didn't get a Hall of Fame call yesterday, so which is maybe a surprise. I don't know. Jared Allen did. What is the sense? I mean, I think Luke's going to get in. I don't think there's any question that Luke Kuechly is Hall of Fame material, just maybe not first ballot.
Yeah, right. And, he had the misfortune, too. And I really had not done a lot of reading up on this until the last couple days. But the Hall of Fame this year, I think the decision or the vote happened in last year, June of 24. But the first class that was impacted was this 25 class. They wanted to make the entrance in the selection process a little more stringent. And it sounded like the impetus for that was Deion Sanders and others, but I think Deion most loudly and perhaps most, impactfully said that there were some classes that didn't really meet the standard of Canton, and some guys got in. A lot of people point to Tony Baselli's year where he got in. Tony Baselli was a fine player, but, right. I mean, he played 7 seasons. Anyway, all of which to say, it was a tougher deal this year for all these guys. First-time eligibility guys like Luke Kuechly and Eli Manning,
yeah.
But even guys like Steve Smith, who was a finalist
right.
for the first time. He was on the ballot for like the 4th time, I think. And so you had a class of 3 modern era guys, 4 total, counting Sterling Sharp, and it's the smallest class that's going to go in since 2005. Yep. So I think they may have overcorrected. I agree with you. I think Luke Kuechly. I am certain Luke Kuechly is going to get in.
Yes,
and I think Steve Smith is too. But it's gotten a lot tougher with what we saw last night.
Oh, what's interesting is that, like, I always, as a baseball guy growing up, I always used the Baseball Hall of Fame threshold for me. And I think the threshold should be high. The Hall of Fame should be the greatest to ever do it. And I don't think the Hall of Fame I understand Deion's point is what I'm getting at, yeah. Because there have been Hall of Fame classes where, based on, the way they do it, like, they have to induct. They obviously no more. They had to induct 7 people every year. Yeah. That seems like a ludicrous number to me. But that's the way they had done it. Obviously, until recently. I agree. I think Steve Smith will get in. I am actively, publicly lobbying for Torrey Holt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I go back and forth with people on Twitter about Holt, and I don't want to keep this going that long because I want to talk about the Panthers in the game. Holt was the best wide receiver on that team. Like, I know Isaac Bruce is in, and I'm not saying Isaac Bruce shouldn't be in. But if you look at after Holt's rookie year from 2000 to 2007, and Bruce was still a super productive player, Holt was way better. Way more productive than Bruce in every possible category.
I was covering the ACC when he was doing his thing at State, and I just remember being impressed with his speed and athleticism then. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was like an all-ACC returner as well.
Yeah, everything.
And then he goes to – and I know the argument is like, well, boy, they had so many receivers on that team. How do you differentiate? I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's okay to take more than one from that group. And Torrey Holt, I'm with you, is certainly deserving.
And Marshall Faulk wasn't bad either, and he factored in the passing game, which probably ate into the numbers for Holt and Bruce, as well as Ricky Prohl, our old friend with the Panthers. So let me just real quick about the Panthers. What is first order of business, do you think, for them over the next several weeks?
Well, it'll be interesting if I think they're going to try to get something done with J.C. Horn before, they've got that 5th-year option if need be.
Right.
But when it gets to that point, we saw it with Brian Burns, right? I mean, like sometimes things get Frankie Louvu. Burns was a different animal with the different trade proposals. But my point is, yes, you'd like to get something done with J.C. Horn, and everything has sounded very amicable at this point. I think he wants to be back. They want him back. So I think that's, I don't know. That they may say, listen, let us take care of some stuff in free agency. We got you, much like they took care of Chuba Hubbard. But I think J.C. Horn's coming sooner rather than later. And then along those same lines, it's just, and this is a broad brush, but fixing the defense.
Yes.
And I think you got to do that in free agency some, and then in the draft. And I think I've been using one. I think they need another edge rusher because Jadeveon and Clowney, who had a pretty fair season last year, but he's getting to the point where the team and Clowney would be best served if he is more of a rotational guy. He was on the field a lot last year.
Right, if he played 30 snaps as opposed to 60.
That's right. And I think he's more effective. And they, I think a healthy DJ Wanham, we saw what that could be. So adding a young guy to that rotation. And then I've talked about a baseball term for you, being stronger up the middle. And we hear that in baseball. But in football, I think they need an upgrade from Shy Tuttle, who has another year left on his contract at nose tackle. I think the maybe an inside linebacker, that probably won't be as big a priority. And then safety, I think like everybody but maybe one guy in their safety room is a free agent, and they're really not anybody I'd be lining up to get back in the fold. So there's going to be a pretty big overhaul in that safety room.
And they need a shortstop. But
that's right. And a center fielder.
Another, but safeties are often called center fielders, right? So all of the phrases kind of play. All right. Let me first of all, do you think there's anybody who would surprise us as a salary cap casualty? And I guess this is my roundabout way of saying, can we get a contract extension for Adam Thielen?
Yeah, I mean, clearly that's what he wants. I think the whole retirement talk was a shot across the bow at hey, I'm also going into the last year of my deal, and by the way, I've been pretty productive for you guys on some bad teams.
Yes.
And this is a guy who's, starts to see the finish line and starts thinking about winning rings, which he was not able to do in Minnesota. So, yeah, I think he's another guy that they're – and I don't know. He wants to get something done. I don't think they're going to do anything crazy for him, but maybe tack on one more year.
That's okay.
I think that'd be appropriate. And then surprise cuts. I don't know how surprising they would be. I mentioned Shy Tuttle. I think Miles Sanders, even though he had that week, 18 game in Atlanta, that was great storyline for us who were there. He seems like, even though Jonathan Brooks is likely going to miss the entire season after that second ACL, I still think they can go get a cheaper backup for Chuba Hubbard. So Miles Sanders will be, they got to do something with Taylor Moton. He is like a $40 million cap number.
Wow.
And so I'm not suggesting they cut him. He's still playing at a high level, but he's going to have to agree to. And then Jordan Gross, I wrote this earlier in the offseason, but late in his career, he had to take a pay cut.
Yep.
Shaq Thompson has had to do that a couple times. So, nothing. Listen, there will be a surprise, but nothing that jumps out at me.
All right, final thing for Joe Person. How do you see the game on Sunday? You saw the Chiefs this year. Heck, the Panthers almost beat the Chiefs. What do you think?
I saw both these teams.
That's right, you did.
That's 2 weeks after Kansas City, they went up to Philly, and but for a Xavier Legette drop touchdown pass, they beat the Eagles.
Man, we could have transitive propertied this thing.
Yeah, they took both of these teams to the brink. They really did. I don't know what that says. Listen, I'd like to see, probably like the rest of the world, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that. A lot of people like dynasties. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing the Eagles just for something different. I don't know that I have a great breakdown on it. We were asked to make picks for the Athletic, and in my little short synopsis, I mentioned maybe Jalen Carter. We've seen Chris Jones for the Chiefs be such a game wrecker. Jalen Carter has that ability for the Eagles. I mean, clearly, and so maybe he gets in there and gets a ball loose from Mahomes. It's a tough proposition, but I don't know. Chiefs will probably win, but I'd like to see the Eagles pull off the upset.
I think that's about as normal analysis as you're ever going to find, because I actually think there's a path for Philadelphia, but we just talked to Steve Logan, and Logan came up with a number about 125 postseason drives since 2001. In the final minute of a game with the team with the ball trailing by 7 points or less, and the success rate on those drives is 40%, team taking the lead or tying the game. And wow. Patrick Mahomes is 7 for 7 in those situations. 7 for 7. Crazy. So the Eagles got to lead by 10 with more than a minute to go.
Listen, different scenario and not as nearly as good a defense, but that's what happened here week 12 at Bank of America Stadium. They scored and left too much time on the clock. He had a 33-yard scramble, game-winning field goal, game over.
Yeah, there was over 2 minutes or just about 2 minutes left. 13 seconds is too much time.
Yeah, you're right.
To leave Patrick Mahomes. Joe Person from The Athletic. The lab is good, and that's important. I appreciate your time, sir. I will talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Enjoy the game.
You got it. Joseph Person on Twitter.